The journey began on October 12, 2012, when Dominic Rooney was born.
We had been trying to have a child for about 5 years. We're unsuccessful. Started talking about adoption, and all of a sudden, boom, she was pregnant.
He was a great kid. By 6 weeks, he was sleeping 8 hours at night. He was eating, he was healthy, he was happy, everything was going great. And we're like, oh, we have the easiest kid ever. He just goes where we go. I pick him up and take him off, and he wants to sleep, he just slept. If, whatever he did, he just went.
At 11 months old, Sean and Trish noticed Dominic started to act different.
He wasn't sleeping as well. He had these little red dots on his head that we thought were maybe some weird bug bites or something like that. We thought would go away. They thought it was an ear infection. They gave us some antibiotics, didn't work, and we finally ended up at Dr. Vaz's office on the morning of September 12th, 2013. He basically, within 5 minutes, he was sending us to the Alberta Children's Hospital.
So we went and spent 8 hours in the ER at the Alberta Children's Hospital there. And then they did a bunch of blood tests and blood work and everything, and they came back and told us that he had leukemia. Which is not something you ever imagine your kid having, You hear about it and you see the commercials on the TV and, little things like that, but you never really think it would actually happen to you or to someone or, something like that. So it crushed us, it floored us. We had no idea what was going on. We had no idea what to expect. Our whole world was turned upside down in a matter of a day. We went from having what we thought was just a slightly sick kid to a kid with leukemia.
Dominic started chemotherapy immediately, and a few months later, the family learned he had a very rare form of leukemia. Only 9 cases of this form had been reported worldwide, with only 3 survivors. The doctors had then suggested a bone marrow transplant.
We're like, oh, okay. A bone marrow transplant, we can do that. It's adding on another 8 months to our treatment cycle now, but we can do it. We can get this done. We can figure it out. So we found a perfect 10 out of 10 match for his bone marrow transplant. Neither Sean nor I were viable donors for him, but they went through the one match program and found a 10 out of 10 match for him, which was a perfect match. Couldn't have asked for a better match. And then we went through, did the whole bone marrow transplant, had some complications, ended up being in the ICU twice during that time. And we found out after we finished our 100 days, you have to stay in Calgary for 100 days after the bone marrow transplant. So we finished our 100 days in hospital basically, and we found out 2 months later that the transplant had failed.
On December 24th, 2014, the doctors diagnosed Dominic as being terminal.
And they basically said, go home, you have a couple months, enjoy yourself, enjoy your time, and just enjoy what you have left basically. So we said, okay. I packed him up, I drove home, we had Christmas, and we just kept doing things. I scheduled him for swimming lessons, and we scheduled for gymnastics, and we went on a trip to Vancouver, and we just sort of kept doing things, and he just kept doing okay and kept doing okay. We're like, okay, things are going okay. Like I said, they gave him a couple weeks, and he ended up staying alive for 9 months.
A few months before Dominic's 3rd birthday, he was granted a wish trip through the Children's Wish Foundation.
They were so kind to send us to Orlando, to Disney World, and that was just at the end of August, beginning of September in 2015. And we got there, and we knew he wasn't doing well, but it was It was as if he wanted to bring us to the happiest place in the world, and we got to Disney World for 2 hours on the one morning, and the next morning we woke up and he wasn't breathing right. And so we had to call the ambulance, and 2 days later he was gone. When it's your firstborn child, and you never even consider the idea that could be ever taken away from you. I mean, and then to have that happen, it's devastating. Of course it's devastating, but by the same token, I think anybody who gets put in that kind of scenario finds a way to cope with it. as best they can, and everybody copes differently, but we coped by sort of relying on our community and sort of knowing that we had the best help we could get, and being positive, and also taking a lot of inspiration from Dominic himself.
Yeah, he's just always so happy. He was a very happy kid, even with all the treatments and all the chemotherapy and everything he had to go through. You think he'd be very angry or sad or very moody or whatever, but he wasn't. He was just always easygoing and happy, and you know, he didn't know any different, so it was okay.
During this journey, the community had rallied around the family with support, and they were introduced to the charity Extra Life. This is where you raise money and enter a 24-hour gaming marathon for the Children's Miracle Network hospital of your choice.
We found out about a month after he was diagnosed. A friend of mine, Krista, had a brother who had done it, or she knew about it and told us, hey, we should do this and give back to the Alberta Children's Hospital. And I was like, yes, because all you're asking me to do is play games and raise money. I can do that. And so we did it the very first year. I think the first year was a 25-hour marathon, and we split it. We did half of it at our house, and we did half of it at her house, and it was great. And we raised $4,000 that year, and then the next year we raised $8,000, and the next year we raised $46,000.
Trish says they decided to keep going with Extra Life because so many families need the programs it supports.
And the hospital was amazing. The doctors and the staff and the nurses and everybody there, and the social workers, and all the support we received from the hospital was amazing. And we just felt that we have to give back to the hospital and do what we can so that they can continue to help families like us and continue to do the little things, because there's a lot of programs that the hospital have that is not funded by the government. So the only way that they can have these is by having the extra fundraisers and raising all the extra money. They have a musical therapy program there. They have an arts program there. They even have like a computer program for older kids.
To make a donation to the DominicStrong Extra Life team, you can visit their blog at www.DominicStrong.com. For Go on Shaw TV, I'm Leanne Evans.